City Controller Ron Galperin.
Good evening, everybody. What a pleasure it is to be here and to give this wonderful man, David Nahai, the award for the pursuit of justice. Actually, our Jewish tradition teaches us tzedek tzedek tirdof, which literally means that you are supposed to pursue justice. You're not just supposed to embrace it, but you are supposed to actively pursue it. And this is something that David Nahai does. He's a man that I greatly admire, and I have to tell you, it's a real special privilege to be able to introduce you, because this is somebody that I know that I can call on for advice, and someone who I think of truly as a role model. Now, David embodies the very qualities to which we as members and supporters of Bend the Ark are devoted. He's wise, he's thoughtful, he's knowledgeable, he's empathetic. And being educated at the prestigious London School of Economics, he also has what I would consider to be the most cultured and mellifluous accent in Los Angeles. Those of you who've heard him, and you will get a chance to do so after me, know that, quite frankly, he can make an impression just reading the phone book. David was born in Iran and educated in schools both in the UK and here in California at Berkeley. And as an Iranian American, he's always encouraged his fellow Iranian Americans, in fact, all of us, to be active participants in the civic life of LA. And he leads by example with the many organizations that have benefited from his keen mind and from his generous heart. He's passionate, of course, about the environment in our city, our state, our nation, and internationally. He served our city as CEO and general manager of the DWP, not an easy thing to do, where he spearheaded the expansion of the utilities' renewable energy portfolio and increased the use of all sorts of renewables from 5% to 15%. He also saw the creation of the LA Solar Plan and restoration of the lower Owens River. David has served our state as California Water Quality Board member, and in fact, the board has its H. David Nahai Water Quality Awards. He's also served our nation and our globe as a senior advisor to the Clinton Climate Initiative, and with President Clinton's support, is working through the Clinton Climate Initiative to increase efficiency in the world cities, expand the supply of clean energy, and to really work in so many ways towards sustainability. But I have to say, in all that he does it with a really special touch. And I remember about 2 years ago, I got to see this personally. I was at an event where David was in attendance, and there was somebody who actually came up to, we were both standing next to each other, and this was a very passionate supporter of the environment, but one that actually disagreed with him about something. And she got pretty angry very quickly. And there was not really, I have to say, a reasonable basis for this. But I saw what David did. And he actually paused, he looked her in the eye, and he said, let's have a conversation about this. He lowered the temperature unbelievably and had a conversation with her about this. Now, when all was said and done, she didn't agree with everything, but it went from combat to conversation, and at the end, she gave him a hug and told him how grateful she was for how he had engaged with her. And this is a lesson that I never want to forget myself, and one that I think we can all learn from. It's a lesson that every voice matters, and it explains David's ability to bring people together and, as it were, to bend the arc for social justice. Now, Bend the Ark's mission is to create a Jewish voice for equality and justice in our nation, and I can think of no one better who speaks with that voice, that mellifluous voice, than David Nahai. I should also add that he has devoted himself to his family, to his children, to his wife Gina, who are here this evening, and she has her own literary voice, as we all know, that's all the way around the world read and heard. He's a supporter of Bend the Ark because he believes that as Jews, we have a moral and ethical responsibility to do what is right. And he's done this as a president of B'nai Zion Foundation, on the board of Stephen Wise Temple, Jewish Federation, the Magbit Foundation, and so many other organizations. Now, the Midrash, or rabbinic commentary on Ecclesiastes, teaches that a man has three names. one which is given to him by his father and mother, one which is given to him by his friends, and one that he acquires for himself. And the best one is the one that one acquires for oneself. So the man that we call David, his given name is actually Hamid, which means in Arabic, praiseworthy. The name that we call him, of course, is David, which besides being the greatest of the kings of Israel, also means beloved. And then there is the reputation and the name that he has acquired for himself. It's a reputation of integrity, of smarts, of leadership, of making a difference in everything that he does. That name, I think, most succinctly is summed up by what we call a mensch. Now, I'll close with this, which is Pirkei Avot, which is the saying of our fathers and our mothers, our sages, relates the words of the sage Ben Zoma. And he asked, who is honored? And the answer is the one who can honor another. And so I am deeply honored to be able to honor my friend and my role model, David Nahai. Oh, and you get one of these certificates. Actually, one of the nice things about becoming elected in the city of LA is you get a certificate-making machine. But since our budget is really in trouble, it's not framed, but I hope that's okay.
Oh, that's Thank you.
Mazel tov.
All right.
Oh.
Thank you very much.
So we've got this, and we have this wonderful tzedakah box. Oh, this is beautiful.
Oh, lovely. No, oh, this is it. Thank you.
Mazel
Thank you
tov.
so much. Thank you. I'm going to go and put this on. Wow, what a beautiful introduction. Thank you so much, Controller Galprin, Ron, my good friend. And let me also say this about Ron Galprin. I've known him, of course, many years and have been an admirer many years. But when he decided to run for the office of Controller, he did me the honor of having a breakfast with me and to tell me about his plans. And of course, I'd known him during the time that he'd run for city council and many other activities when he headed the financial commission at the city. But that breakfast really made an impression on me because I sat across the table from a man with such determination, such resolve, such commitment. And it wasn't a commitment to win. It wasn't a determination to win. It was instead a resolve to serve. And he comes to this position with a purity of heart and an intelligence and a knowledge that is truly to be admired. And I think he's shown the way for so many of us. And I want to thank you for that, Ron. I want to thank you for everything that you do to restore our faith in public services to so many of the other elected and appointed officials that are here tonight. Thank you for that. And I want to thank you for another reason, by the way, because when I told my wife, Gina, that Ben the Ark was going to honor me, she looked at me quizzically and she said, "What for?" So I want to thank you very much for reminding my wife that I may have done a thing or two worthy of acknowledgement. You know, as you can tell, around in my home, you don't get a big head, that's for sure. And if Gina wasn't going to remind me of this kind of thing, certainly my children would. So, but look, the truth of the matter is, as grateful and as flattered as I am at being up here, the credit really belongs to others. It belongs to the women and men of the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power. And I'm delighted to have here with us here tonight Marty Adams, who's the head of the water system at DWP, and Masoud Saburi of the power system. And yes, they do deserve a round of applause. And the commissioners and staff of the Regional Water Board, the solar team at the Clinton Climate Initiative. Really, these are the people who should be up here taking the credit. Because while I may have acted as a spark, I may have acted as an agent or a catalyst for change, it is really they who did the work of transformation, of the work of moving us all in a more environmental direction, and in some cases, of throwing off the ingrained practices of the past in order to embrace a new environmental paradigm. And I also owe this recognition to the various organizations that I've had the honor of being affiliated with. The California League of Conservation Voters. I'm very happy to have here with us our chair, Rick Zabur, Heal the Bay, the Luskin Center, Clean Tech LA, the Los Angeles Business Council, and thrilled to have with us Jacob Lipa, who chairs the Los Angeles Business Council. These organizations really carry out what is a central, essential edict of Judaism, which is the concept of tikkun olam, of course, of the need to repair the world, the need to break, to see what is broken in the world and to fix what is broken in the world. And that brings me back really to the work of Ben the Ark, because the issue of tikkun olam is not something really that has to do with Judaism. It is a universal value. And especially today in the environmental arena, in fact in every arena, as we face and confront the pain of climate change and the horrors that it will bring with it in the form of more intense droughts, wildfires, extreme, freakish weather events, which we see are already occurring. The value of tikkun olam is really a call to action for all of us. And the values of Ben the Ark, the essence of Ben the Ark, transcends religions, creeds, colors, beliefs of all kinds. This really is a call to all human beings around the world to do something about the challenges that face us all. So I'm going to just conclude by telling you a quick story. Gina and I went to a Shabbat dinner on Friday night, and you know, Persian Jews, we start our Shabbat dinners at 8:30 and we finish, around midnight. And of course, what happens is that people who during the day are, clothing manufacturers and real estate brokers, and by the time they've had some wine and a couple of drinks, they become philosophers and poets and oh my goodness. And it's quite interesting, actually, and they love to wax poetic and to quote, the great poets of Iran, Hafez and Rumi, and of course, everyone's favorite, I think, Sadi. So we were sitting there at the Shabbat dinner, and one of the gentlemen, held forth with this aphorism that he attributed to Sadi, and the real meaning of it was that in nature, the weak are doomed. And I thought, well, this was interesting because Sadi was of course a Muslim of the Sufi sect, and his exhortations were always about humanitarianism and kindness and so on. So I went looking for this quote, and of course, I didn't find it. But what I did find was the quote that Sadi is most famous for, and it is actually a poem that graces the entrance of the Hall of Nations of the United Nations. And so I wrote it down, and I brought it in order to read these few lines for you. And actually, when President Obama was sending a message to Iranians on the occasion of the Persian New Year, he used this poem in the message that he gave to the Iranian people in a bid to try to build up closer relations. So here it is. And of course, this is not the prettiest translation of this poem, but I think it's the most popular. So it says, human beings are members of a whole, in creation of one essence and soul. If one member is afflicted with pain, other members, uneasy, will remain. If you have no sympathy for human pain, the name of human you cannot retain. So this is a poem about compassion. And this is at the core of the work of Ben the Ark. And this is why I'm so proud to have been chosen to be recognized for the work that I have done, which in comparison to the work that Bend the Arc does every day, is really nothing. And so if I may, let me conclude by acknowledging my family members who are here, my sister Linda, my son Alex, my daughter Ashley, my son Kevin, over there with Menache, as we call her, his girlfriend. Our puppy Gus really wanted to be here. He said, you know what, I'll wear a bow tie, he said, just take me. But Gina wouldn't let. So, and of course, the light and love of my life, Gina Nahai, and thank you for supporting me all the times that I've crusaded for yet another worthy cause that beckoned, Gina. Thank you. But with everyone's permission, I want to dedicate this award to my parents. My mother, Parry, whose real admonishment and admonition to me was always, miss no opportunity to be kind. And to my father, who faced life's many adversities with a strength and a faith and a resilience, which is an inspiration to me every day of my life. Thank you very much.